All right. Welcome to the Voncast Show. Today I got special guest. For one of my first job was my first manager. David, what's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Let me just turn this down real quick. Okay. So for the Voncast Show, we usually do intros. Before we start anything, tell us an intro about who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is David Aguirre. I was born and raised here in San Fernando, the Valley. A little bit about me is, well, what people know me for right now is my pins. I have a pin company called PINetration.
Mm-hmm.
I do Latino-inspired pins with American pop culture and Mexican pop culture.
Nice.
And I've been doing this for about 3 years now.
Okay.
A little bit about me. As I mentioned, I was raised here in San Fernando.
Mm-hmm.
Born and raised, LA boy. Grew up, single mom, 5 boys. Kind of that story, you know.
Right.
She, an immigrant here from Mexico, used to clean houses when she was when we were young, and she was younger, obviously. Yeah, and just doing it from there, man.
Nice. All right. So growing up in the Valley, what part of San Fernando Valley did you grow up in?
I grew up in the city of San Fernando.
Okay.
So straight up in the city of San Fernando, which is San Fernando. It's right in the middle of Silmar and Pacoima. So
Okay.
yeah, so I grew up like in the heart of San Fernando.
Nice. How was it like growing up there? Was it a good childhood experience? Or?
Yeah, I did. It's crazy, you know. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and we talked about, you know, growing up and how things were. I really never felt that whole poverty kind of thing, you know. I mean, my mom took care of us, man. She did the best she could. I felt like we were never poor, though now when I look at it, we were, you know, like it was like rough for my mom, you know. I mean, a single mom with 5 boys, you know. But it was cool, man. I mean, I have a brother that's a year older. We're probably the closest out of the 5. I mean, we're 1 year apart, so we went to school together and stuff like that. But I did grow up in San Fernando where, you know, it's rough, you know, where especially during that time, you know, in the late 80s and early 90s.
The gangs.
Yeah, the gangs and stuff like that. And I have, you know, a couple brothers too that got caught up in that mix, you know. So I was fortunate enough to not.
Right.
Where that changed, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's strange. I talk to people all the time about the situation, you know, of how like all my brothers are kind of different, you know. I'm the middle child, so I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers. And then growing up in that type of, you know, environment, you know, I mean, I hung around that kind of stuff, but I never really like participated or really got jumped in, so to say, or really got caught up in that situation, as opposed to some of my brothers did, you know. So I saw that lifestyle, I grew up with that lifestyle, but it just never really attracted me to that sense, you know. So I mean, I was the first person in my family to graduate high school,
Awesome.
The first person to graduate college, you know, so to get a degree, and you know, I'm proud of that, you know, to say that, you know, I had to be the leading example for my younger brothers, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's its ups and downs to where I grew up, but I wouldn't change it, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
you know,
good.
I think that's what shaped me for who I am today, you know.
Right,
just to give myself the luxuries, so to say, which is, or not luxuries, but, you know, to do things, you know. I own a home. It's rare to say something like that.
Own a home?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in LA, you know. So, but I mean, to see where I come from, or to see where my mom started, and to where I'm at today, you know, I'm really grateful for those things, you know. And it's just those life experiences.
Damn, that's crazy, man. That's awesome. That band's money.
I wish. Man.
Shit. All right. So, growing up as a kid, did you have any aspirations of what you wanted to do when you grow up? I know a lot of kids be like, "Oh, I want to be a firefighter, astronaut. I want to be the president." What about you?
I think it's changed a lot.
But when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I loved basketball. You know, I loved basketball, but when I knew I was gonna go taller than 5'7", I knew my basketball dreams were out the window.
Yeah.
But at a young age, I started playing hockey.
Okay.
So I started when I was around 10, maybe. Self-taught. My mom cleaned houses, so I remember a lot of her clients would get rid of toys and stuff like that. So my mom would bring that stuff home to us and say, tell us like, pick what you want, and when you don't want, we're gonna donate it, you know, take it to the swap meet. You know, so I remember she brought home some rollerblades, Veriflex, really cheap type of rollerblades. And I always wanted to learn how to rollerblade, you know, ice skate. So I kept those, taught myself, would skate with one foot in and the other one pushing around the house, and then later just adapted to both, and then taught myself how to play hockey. We had some neighbors across the street which were some of my white friends, the older white couple on the block, and they were into hockey, and I would just go there and watch the games and stuff like that, and I got into it from them, you know, and taught myself, man, and I wanted to be a hockey player for a really long time. To this day, I still play hockey, you know. It's crazy, 20-something years later, I'm still playing hockey.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, wanted to be a hockey player, but the other thing I wanted to do was teach, you know. At a young age, I wanted to, I always thought that I was really good at showing people how to do things, you know, giving directions and stuff like that. So that was something I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Did the movie Mighty Ducks ever have an influence?
Of course.
Yeah,
The Mighty Ducks, that was like the best movie ever during that time, you know, early 90s. It's what made the team today, actually.
Did it really?
Yeah, it's inspired the team that, the Mighty Ducks, well, the Anaheim Ducks now, was a franchise of Disney for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what inspired the things. But yeah, it's crazy to think that I grew up with that movie, you know, at that age, but I'm a Kings fan.
Yeah,
hard.
that's
Loyal
cool.
Kings fan to the end.
I never got too much into hockey, but like I remember when I came to the Philippines to here, that was one of the first movies I really got into. American movies. It was like Goofy Movie and Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
And I remember like I tried my hand at hockey. I never like got too good. I just had the rollerblades and the hockey stick, but yeah, it's definitely a very impactful movie in the '90s for everyone who grew up in that.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely a big movie.
So how was your childhood? Like, were you a good student in high school or in school in general? Were you into school or like kind of so-so, or did you have a fascination for it since you wanted to teach?
It's crazy. I wasn't a good student. So and it wasn't that I wasn't a good student because I just thought the work sucked.
Yeah.
I just think my mom was very overwhelmed, you know, in that sense, having 5 boys and having to work. So I think she thought it was better for us to be like, if we didn't want to go to school, she would just be like, then just stay home. I don't need you to be out in the streets during that time. You get caught up, get arrested, or get a ticket, you know, and I have to go to court now and take a day off of work to go pay these fines.
Right.
So she would just be like, oh, you don't want to go to school today? Okay, fine, I got to go to work. And then we kind of just never went to school. So I remember it was a big thing during my like junior high. I think I had more absence than I did that I actually was there at school.
Yeah.
And the LAUSD school system kind of just ran me through. And it wasn't until high school where I was like, and I liked, when I was there, I liked school, but it was just kind of like, I guess the laziness of it, you know, it's just like waking up, it's like, do I really need to get ready? You know, I don't feel good. Okay, stay home. It wasn't really, she wouldn't put up a fight. But in high school, you know, I had this crush on this girl that was in my homeroom, and, you know, damn girls, you know, so I started going to school just to see her.
Right.
And it's crazy to think that I went to school just to see her because we're in homeroom, so I thought I'm going to see her in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Yeah.
So never once talked to her throughout high school, but just to see her. And I did good in school, you know, I mean, the work wasn't hard. I actually liked, you know, the process of it, but that's kind of what got me through high school, man.
Hey, sometimes it's the motivation you need.
That's it.
You know? So, high school, were there any particular subjects that you gravitated towards, or any particular subjects that you didn't care for so much?
I didn't care for math.
I hate math.
Math is the worst.
Yeah.
It's literally a different language.
Yes.
You know, it's like you know it or you don't. It's like a language. You either know how to speak it or you don't. It's like, to this day, I hate math. I mean, I can do the basics of the other stuff. Yeah, that's it.
That's all you need.
But as far as the things that I gravitated towards, history. I loved history.
Me too.
You know, social studies and history. I've always been a person that loved history. I mean, even now, just like the politics of things and just like the social issues that are happening.
Right.
That stuff I really gravitate towards too, you know. And then metal shop. I loved metal shop, man. I think that's what taught me how to use tools today.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a handy guy?
Yeah. I'm not really a handy guy. It's
Yeah.
funny because I always tell people, it's kind of like, oh, you know how to change a tire? I'm like, no, but I know the number to a tow truck. Tow truck service, they'll change a tire for me, you know, like, but, you know, if I need to get down and dirty, I have. I've always been that type of person.
Like you with a stiffy?
Yeah.
Keep the tool on you or what? Just
Yeah,
kidding.
right?
All right, so so you were saying how you're the first to graduate from high school. What was that feeling like for you and your mom?
It's like a surreal feeling. I mean, it's crazy to think, like, I think about it now and it's like, it's just high school.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a big deal.
Definitely.
And it was a big deal for my mom,
Mhm.
given that her first, the two older ones didn't accomplish it. And I mean, it wasn't like they dropped out of school and didn't do nothing and hung out at home.
Yeah.
I mean, they got jobs, and
Yeah.
for them, they felt more like, this job's paying me good money. I think this is the career I need to go.
Yeah.
This is the path I need to take now. I need to help out with home,
Right.
you know, the house bills and
Right.
whatnot.
That's
You know,
cool.
so for me, a big reason why it felt great is because just to see the satisfaction in my mom, or, you know, just to see how happy she was that someone actually accomplished it. It's a big accomplishment.
Definitely.
Especially high school is a big part of your life, where it kind of shapes a person, you know? It kind of really shapes who you're gonna be for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah.
You're gonna go this route or go that route, and it's a experimental time, you know, for a lot of people, you know? And some people's experiments or experiences in general can ruin them in high school, you know? Or some can motivate them to do something else.
Mhm.
So doing that, I mean, seeing her being so happy was just like a joy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So then you're saying how you got into college. Which college did you attend?
I went to San Francisco State University.
Oh, that's right. I think you remember. So how was that move? I mean, living in the Valley all your life to going to SF State, how was that for you? How was the transition?
A culture shock.
Really?
A culture shock, yes, but after I learned how San Francisco is, it wasn't. It was very easy for me to find like people that were into what I was into and stuff like that. But leaving home, the first boy to leave home, you know, and in Latino cultures, it's really big where it's like your parents take care of you, and then after a while, you take care of them when you're old enough to do that. You know,
Right.
it's kind of, you've always stayed together. So like, someone leaving is really a drastic thing at
Is it?
home. Yeah, it is. It's crazy. Like, so my mom was like really scared, really worried. It's like, are you sure that's what you wanted to do? And it's crazy because I applied to 5 schools. And my number 1 school I wanted to go to was CSUN because their teaching credential program is a really great program.
Yeah.
So that was my first pick, and it's crazy to think that that was the last school that accepted me, but I already had committed to San Francisco. So I was, you know, my thing was done. I went, I was doing it at the time. I was dating someone that had went them the semester before. So I had my previous girlfriend that was there now, was there then, was there. So I kind of felt like that was the only person that I would know. But thinking that when I was going to go there, that, you know, we were going to move in together, do things like that. It was like totally with 180.
It's always like that.
Yeah, I
It's
got
always
there.
like that.
I lived with, I knew nobody. We
Yeah.
ended up breaking up, and it was just like. But I think the experience there was great, man. I wouldn't change that experience for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the city's great. I have mad love for San Francisco, you know.
That's really
They
nice.
took care of me. The school was great. The people were amazing, you know.
Definitely.
I still have friends till today where I go and visit. I try to go every 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
you know. But I go and I always have a place to stay. I catch up with friends, and it's like we never stop
Right.
talking, you know.
Yeah.
But for my mom, it was difficult. For me, it was tough, man. Leaving, it was really tough. Like,
Right.
just feeling like I'm not gonna have that support, and
Yeah.
then living on my own and learning the basics of I have to go buy, you know, the necessities,
Yeah.
you know, toothbrush, you know, toilet paper, all that jazz, you know. It's crazy to think that, and then you appreciate your parents more for the things that they do, you know, like that people take advantage
Groceries.
of. Yeah, all that
home
stuff.
cooked meals.
All that stuff. you know.
Laundry.
So you get kids that are always like bickering about their parents, like I hate that they're, and it's like, and when you live by yourself, you're like, damn, there's so much crap that goes into things.
It's interesting because in the Western culture, American culture, it's like, you know, once you're 18, you move out the house.
Yeah.
You know, is that different from in Latino culture? Like
Ah.
moving out the house, kind of thing? Is
Yeah,
that,
yeah. I mean, I think times have changed now,
Right.
but I mean, in a traditional sense, yeah, it's usually like, you know, your dad would work at a company, you would go work for him, or you would work in the same business, and you guys kind of always stick together, you
Right.
know? I think now, you know, as the years go by and we get, you know, the second, third, fourth generation
Mm-hmm.
people here, you know, Latinos here, you know, those kind of traditions kind of like,
Fade away.
yeah, fade away. But I mean, it's still really big though. It's still
Yeah.
really big. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see it.
All right, so when I first met you, I was like, oh, this guy's cool. He has a Rage Against the Machine tattoo. How'd you get involved with music and joining a band?
Music, I've always loved music since I was young. My eldest brother, Raul, he was always into like alternative. So growing up when I was younger, I got into like the Smiths, The Cure, Depeche Mode.
Mhm.
You know, I was into that type of alternative music. And it wasn't until '94 where we had the Northridge earthquake actually. I remember people slept outside their houses for about a week or two. You know, the gas was turned off, you know, after that really big earthquake here in LA. The aftershocks after that were intense. So people were sleeping on their lawns. I remember my brother had a pickup truck, so we slept in his pickup truck, and he would have that Rage Against the Machine album on repeat.
Mhm.
So I remember I got just stuck on it. You know, it's like, dude, like what this guy's just dropping F-bombs left and right.
Yeah.
You know, I was young, you know, '94.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, that listening to them just inspired me. And then, you know, 2 years later, they came out with the new album, Evil Empire. And my brother had purchased it the first day it came out. And yeah, man, I was stuck on them ever since, man. It's the greatest band ever.
Yeah.
That's probably been one of my biggest influences. And during that time, I think they were a big reason why I did the whole finishing school, doing college, doing that stuff, you know, to be educated, you know, to definitely give back to my community.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to teach. That's why I wanted to do things. And it was Rage that had that really big influence. As crazy as it sounds, because people, I've told people this, and people are like, yeah, it's a band, but it's not a band. It's a way of living.
Right.
What they say, man, it's a way of living, you know, and you have to live a certain lifestyle to do like, or to believe in the stuff that they were saying at the time,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I think now people consider that stuff like woke. Were you aware of what they were teaching and spreading was like a very socially like conscious message, or you're just like, oh, that's so cool, I'm gonna do it when you're younger?
No, I did, yeah. I had another a buddy of mine who was older. His name was Joe Contreras, and he was a big influence on a whole bunch of us neighborhood kids. You know, I mean, he grew up in the hood as well. You know, he kind of knew, and he played hockey, and that's kind of where we met. You know, we would go play hockey at the park, you know, in the tennis courts, and I guess, you know, word started to spread that a whole bunch of kids were playing hockey there, and I remember he would show up with his brothers, some of his teammates, and you know, that's how we kind of got introduced to him. But he was a big influence on us, who also, you know, loved the band as well, and that's kind of, I think, where he and I clicked. So since he was older, you know, he drove and he did this and that. He took me to my first Rage Against the Machine concert in '96, I believe, no, '97, and it was the U2 Pop tour where Rage opened up for U2, and my mom, which is crazy, she let me go with him to San Diego to go see this. But you know, him even like schooling us on some of what the lyrics meant, you know, and he would always tell us like words that you don't know, or, you know, or things that you don't know, let me know, and, you know, we'll definitely look them up.
Right.
And back then, like, I mean, the internet wasn't as easy as it was
Right.
now, you know. So, but yeah, I knew they were spreading knowledge, you know, and you know, the struggles, which is crazy. You know, you think about an album that came out 20-something years ago and still relevant today,
Mhm.
if not even more relevant
Definitely.
to what things are happening. So,
Yeah.
like I tell people, it's what they're saying, man, it's a lifestyle, you know, it's a way of living, it's a way of looking at things, you know, it's not just music. I mean,
Right.
don't get me wrong, the music's the greatest music they've ever written, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But, you know, it's more than just that.
Definitely. And did you ever join a band, or?
I did, actually. You know, growing up, I loved music, so, you know, junior high, you know, I was really into Pearl Jam, you know, Soundgarden and stuff like that, you know, and then I got into Rage. When during my junior high times, I was actually a b-boy.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Okay.
so I was into breakdancing and all that. I love the hip hop aspect of things, you know.
Yeah.
I was in a b-boy group. You know, we went battle. We did the whole jazz, and then when I transitioned to high school, some of our crew went to like a different school. We went to another school, but I had friends that I played with in hockey who were going at the school that I was at, Somewhere High. And they were, back in the days, it's funny because they were considered the stoners or the rockers, you know, the guys with long hair, wore Dickies, you know, and their Converse. That wasn't the style as it is now. Everyone wears Converse now, as opposed to back then it was the stoners or the rockers. They had a band, a punk band, you know, and they were close friends because they played hockey with me. So I was kind of like their groupie. So I would go to their shows and, you know, backyard boogies, you know, around the neighborhood, and they would play, you know, their sets, straight punk rock, you know. You know, and they were influenced by Minor Threat and stuff like that. And just little by little, you know, I started, you know, giving them ideas like, oh, I think it would be dope if you did this. I think it would be cool if you did this, you know. And then I would go to their practices, hang out with them, and then just once my buddy was like, yo, we should start a band, you know. It's like, you're really influenced, you know, you're into a lot of things that we're influenced by, you know, you're into what's happening in the community, like, let's start a band, you know. So it's like, yeah, man, it was funny to think of when we started. I was so embarrassed to like sing in front of even my bandmates. We literally put boxes in the garage, boxes like to surround me where I would sing so they couldn't see me because I felt embarrassed.
Damn.
And I think we have pictures and stuff like that of me doing that, and it's funny because people now, like, I mean, I've known you for what, 12 years probably now, you know, so, and I mean, you think I'm just a chill guy, you know, I mean, we've worked together and stuff like that, so, but I'm a really mellow dude, but and then when I would go on stage, people were like, what the fuck, like, who is, like, you're a totally different person, you know, so, and it's crazy to think where I started off with, like, literally hiding myself behind boxes and making, like, myself a little cage so nobody would see me, and then towards the tail end of our band, you know, we played for about 14 years together, you know, we traveled, we did some stuff like that, you know, so we toured, and it was great. So back to your question, because I was straying away.
That's all right.
But, you know, asked me to play in a band. I said yes. It was a 3-piece band. We only had a guitar, drums, and I was singing. And then we practiced the same 3 songs for about a year. Literally, like, just trying to get that down. And then another buddy of our guitarist brought him in. He said, hey, this is my buddy. I've known him since elementary. You know, he plays bass. And we're just kind of like, cool, you know, you hip with what we're into?
Yeah.
Go. He joined. We started a band. Mindset's a Threat was the band name. Our first show ever, which is crazy because we practiced for so long, and then our first gig we ever did was during lunchtime at school. So I'm thinking, like, this is our senior year. We're gonna play at lunchtime in front of our whole school. You know, it's like, how embarrassing is this gonna be if we fuck it up? You know, it's gonna be like, fools are gonna be clowning the rest of the year. You know, so it was nerve-wracking, but to do it, and we played that day. I remember we had 3 original songs, and then we played our Rage song, Girl the Radio. You know, that was our first cover that we played. We played there, and the rest was history, man. After that, you know, all these other bands from the Valley started popping up, asking us to play shows, and then we got to a point where I think we were pretty big in the Valley, you know? Nice. It was like, people knew, it was like, oh, you're gonna go to a Mindset's a Threat show, it's gonna be off the chain, you know? And it's crazy, we played, and we would literally do tours, like backyard boogie tours. Like, we would set up, like, this week we're playing at whoever's, you know, Joe's house, and then the next week we're playing at Christina's house, and we would do flyers and, like, every weekend, because we were in school still. So every Saturday we had a show, so it was our own little tour, and we would bring bands. Awesome. And then we did that around the Valley for a few years, and it got really big. And unfortunately, there was another band from Pacoima, some punker bands, and then our drummer knew him. One of the band members there was like some personal beef between them, you know, graffiti beef, you know, and then next thing you know, it's like they started showing up to our shows, causing ruckus. We started showing up to their shows, causing ruckus, and then it literally became the Silmar punk scene and the Pacoima punk scene, you know? So, and it got to a point where people were being stabbed and shit. I got bad. It got to the point where, like, literally gangs from the hood started showing up, you know? So we would have fools from, you know, Sanfed show up, and then fools from Pacoima show up, and then it would just, it was like, it just started off as a, hey man, we're band, we're trying to spit knowledge here, and it just, but it is what it is, you know, it happened, and it was a good run, man, and then after that started happening, we started just playing club scenes, so we started playing on Sunset, so we were playing at the Whiskey, the Roxy, so we were getting our name out there, man, and unfortunately, life kicked in, you know, some of our bandmates had kids, you know, stuff like that, and it started getting more difficult for us to practice, you know. Our practices became babysitting sessions too, because they would be with kids.
Right.
And it didn't bother me, you know.
Right.
But it just got difficult, you know. It's
Yeah.
more like, oh, I can't this week, you know, my son's sick, or this and that. So that kind of ended my threat. But man, it was a good run, man.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, to what we were doing and just the experiences now, I have tons of videos, man. So
Right.
I'll definitely have to bring some through.
Definitely. All right, so let's backtrack a little bit. So you went to San Francisco State. What was your major?
Liberal studies.
Teaching.
So yeah, teaching. So I wanted to be a teacher. So I went to school to be a teacher. Finished.
How many years?
San Francisco was there 2.5 years. I
Okay.
finished quick. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, I went to JC here.
Oh,
I went to Mission College
okay,
here,
okay.
and then I transferred there.
Okay.
So when I got there, I finished. You know, like I didn't know anyone, so I was like, what am I gonna do with my time? I worked, and then I went to school. So I was doing 21 units. I think my last 2 semesters, 21 units.
Each semester?
Yeah.
Damn. I went to SF State to visit. I was in Asian American Studies, and we did a panel in Berkeley. But what I liked about SF State was the Ethnic Studies department. That's the first place it ever popped up.
Yeah.
The third world movement, I think. We're like, it was crazy, man, because this is what we read about in the books. This is like where ethnic studies started. This is where like we needed ethnic studies. So to me, going there was very interesting. Like, and then it's such a big department there. Was here, it's all right, you know. But there it's pretty cool. This is where it all started. SF State.
Yeah, SF State. Like I said, I enjoyed it there. And yeah, a lot of culture there, bro.
Mhm.
A lot of culture. I remember showing up there and just trying to see, like, you know, just see the grind of things, and you know what was popping there. I did go and I did visit. I did visit Mecha, which was the like the Chicano group there.
Yeah.
So you know, I met a few cats there, and cool cats, you know. And I remember, and when I went to SF State, I was 25. So I think I was a little older than, you know, some of the people that are there, 18, 19, 20, 21. So, you know, I kind of felt like, you know, they're really down for the cause, you know, and stuff like that. But at that time, you know, I was very like, sort of say like Malcolm X, kind of like, you for the movement, you're not, like,
Yeah.
like that. They ain't no bullshitting here. Like, this is what we're gonna do, this is what it is, you know. And I felt like, you know, we would have meetings, and I wasn't part of the group, you know. I would just show up, you know, try to like, you know, see what the jazz was, you know. But yeah, I felt like they're really down for the movement and this and that. But then after it'd be like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna set this up. Well, you know, we're gonna do this, you know, organization and this and that. And these are like, what are you guys doing tonight? Oh, I'm gonna get fucked up and I'm gonna go get drunk. And I was like, what? Like, and maybe I felt that way because I've never drank in my life. I'm straight edge. So I've never smoked, never drank, never, you know. So for me, it was kind of like, I've always felt like, and you know, everyone has a vice, and it's not to judge anyone, but for me, I just felt like that wasn't for me, you know. So I kind of just strayed away from that kind of scene, you know. You know, I kind of felt like if we're gonna do it, it's all in or nothing at all, you know. And for me, that just kind of took away from you know, from that fire for me.
Right.
You know, but I mean, what they did was cool, you know.
Yeah.
That was their thing.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about like that, because I remember you were like one of the first people I met. I don't even know if you claim straight edge. Just I just don't drink, I don't smoke, or do nothing. What was that? How did you get into that mindset, and what made you like stay straight edge all this time?
I mean, it's crazy to think. I've just never been interested in it.
Mhm.
And people just say, oh, it might have been the trauma that happened to you in your life, and I don't use that as like. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic. He was a drug user. He did pass away. He overdosed. When I was 15, he overdosed, and he died in his car. You know, they found him in his car dead. Just seeing, I'm guessing, I seen a whole bunch of shit growing up, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I said, my dad was in and out of the picture, locked up, if not on the streets, you know, messed up on drugs. You know, he would come home, I would see him beat my mom, you know, beat her up. It got to a point where he was stealing my mom's shit, you know, turning in our TVs to get his next fix. It was that bad, you know? So I grew up with that scenery, you know, grew up with that type of experience, you know, and like, I praise my mom now because I think she's the toughest woman ever,
Mhm.
you know, going through that and still, like, holding it down, you know?
Yeah.
When a lot of people would have given up. You know, but seeing that, you know, and just seeing the effects that I think it had on people,
Right.
so to say, might be like a subliminal message that, or something in the back of my head that tells me not to, but I've never been interested
That's cool.
in drinking, never been interested in smoking. It's just something, and it's crazy because my oldest brother, who's an alcoholic,
Mhm.
you know, but it's crazy because he'll drink all day and he'll get shit-faced, but then he's up at 6 in the morning to go to work, you know. I can't remember the term for that, but like,
Functioning.
yeah, functioning alcoholic or whatever.
Yeah.
So he does that, and I remember a few times where he's gotten like really bad drunk, and he would like say like, oh, you guys didn't experience the things that I experienced. And it's like, you know, our dad died because of this, so this is why I do this. And I've always thought that that's a cheap cop out for me. You know, it's like, why follow the same path? Why do that to your family?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and maybe that's why I strayed away from that. I mean, I got two brothers that, you know, that blaze it all the time. One of them that drinks, you know, occasionally and stuff like that. And then, you know, they do the recreational stuff here and there. But I've never been into that, you know, I've never fallen into that. And maybe that's probably why I wanted to break that, because I feel like in the situation I was in with my brothers, you know, being caught up, you know, in the hood with the gangs or in drugs and alcohol and seeing all that aspect, 90% chance I was going to end up like that. You know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, you know, I literally was that pod that was just like basically the black sheep of the whole situation, and didn't fall into that, you know. I decided to go to school, decided to do this, you know, never drank, never smoked.
That's cool.
I try to be an honest person for the most part of
Yeah.
it, you know, and it's just, I've just always been that type of person.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm like, oh, I want to live this way because of this. It's just, that's just who I am.
That's cool.
I don't drink because I don't drink. It's like,
That's cool.
I don't really have an explanation for it, but.
That's good, man. I
Yeah.
think it's good, man. I mean, I did like on-off thing with drugs for here and there. Like I got heavy into it, and then like I stopped, back into it. But then I just realized, damn, like I'm getting a lot more done when I'm limiting that or stopping it.
Yeah.
I think for me it was like a phase when I was younger. Like a big part of my youth was like getting high, you know, drinking a lot, just because it was around and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just feel like now that I'm a lot older, it's like, well, you know, I had that fun, but like I can see that I'm more productive. I can get a lot more done when I'm not doing it. But that's really that mindset, though. I really think that you've been able to accomplish what you've been able to accomplish because you've had like a clear mind.
Yeah.
All right, so you became a teacher. Well, you got your teaching credentials. You graduated. What did you teach?
I taught elementary. So when I finished San Francisco, when I finished there, I left the job that I was at, which was the job that I met you at. I was running my own store there. So I left that career path, and then I got into teaching back here. I taught at Vaughn Street, Vaughn Next Century Learning Center, Vaughn Elementary.
Is that
in Pacoima. In Pacoima. So when I graduated high school in 2000, so that dates me there. I graduated in 2000. Right when I graduated, I was a TA there. So at 18, I was a teacher's assistant there.
Yeah.
So I worked there all the way up until 2016.
Right.
So I was a teacher's assistant, you know, and then I started working with special education and started doing all that stuff, and then, you know, started moving up and started getting more hours, started doing other things, you know, and I loved it, man. I loved doing that. So when I left for the 2.5 years, I came back because, you know, I already had some type of, you know, established job or job security coming back there, you know, starting off as a substitute teacher and whatnot, you know. So I came back, started working there, and I was there for a few years, man. Taught kindergarten for many years, first grade, fourth grade, and dabbled a bit in high school. But kinder was probably my main thing that I've done, and I loved it, man. It's crazy to think, like, kids, it's great. I loved kinder, and then fourth grade. Fourth grade was really cool.
High school, not so much?
I liked high school.
Was it tough because you seem like younger, you seem like you're more hip? Was that a way for students to connect to you, or was it like, oh, there's like one of us that don't really like respect them kind of shit?
Actually, I really enjoyed it. I remember while I was subbing a lot, like in the high school, I would always do English classes for some reason. But I think it kind of connected me more with them. So I remember doing this project on how they do advertisement, you know, propaganda, you know, so, and I remember we were talking about like Coca-Cola, Disney and stuff like that. So, you know, the teacher had lessons planned for me left there, and then, you know, we were just talking about it and stuff like that. So then I remember, you know, they were giving me their thoughts and what they meant, and it was just basic like teacher things. So I said, all right, so what do you guys think of this? So then I went on and then I threw the Rise Against video on, and it was the one where they show a bunch of like animals being tortured, kind of like the PETA one. I can't remember the song name of it, but I threw that video, and then after they were just like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
You know, then I was just like, okay, then check out this video. Then I threw a rage video on there, and then it just showed them another aspect of what things are happening, what things are, the way they use propaganda, you know? I showed them the No Shelter video by Rage Against the Machine, which showed like propaganda of how like during that time, that song No Shelter came out on the Godzilla soundtrack. So I remember when they were promoting the movie, it said like his head or his tail is as long as this, and then you would drive down a mile and then it would be to this, you know, like on the bus stops, you know, like telling you like that's how big the tail is to this, you know, lizard or whatever.
Right.
So, and I remember Rage used that concept, you know, and then turned it around, you know, and then it showed like this picture. It said land stolen from Mexico, you know, and it showed a map of the United States, and it showed like the United States all in white, and then everything that was stolen from Mexico in black, you know, and this is imperialism does matter, you know.
Yeah.
So just things like that, and it just opened their eyes, and the dialogue that happened after that was like, it was so organic and natural, you know. And then I think. And it's crazy because a lot of those students that I see now, they're older, you know, they have jobs and stuff, and they're all like, dude, I still remember that day that you schooled us on that, or, you know, and it's crazy to see that, and that's what I loved about teaching, you know. It's just like bringing that different aspect of it. Even when I was teaching in kindergarten, I remember I always tell this story to people because it just shows how long I've been, that I was in the school system for 16 years. So, but I remember I went to this backyard boogie, and I was hanging out with some friends, and I remember this kid shows up, you know, beard and everything, and he's like, yo, he's like, you Mr. Aguirre? And I was like, damn, like this was gonna lock me up right now, like what'd I do, you know? Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, what's up? And he was just like, you don't remember me? I'm Jose, I used to be in your kindergarten class.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck, and he's like, you still like robots? And I was like, I still love robots. He's like, I still remember you used to do, you know, lessons on robots and stuff like that. He's like, I always remember that, you know? He's like, and to this day I still remember it. This kid was 5, man.
How old was he when he came up to your...
He was probably like 19. You know, so, and it's just like, and seeing things like that, and that's what I loved about teaching. That's what Rage did for me, you know. It's like I was giving back to my community, you know, giving back to them, you know. And I came back and taught where I grew up. You know, I saw these kids at the local Food for Less and Vallarta, you know, at the swap meet, you know. I saw them and I saw their parents and their families, and they would be like, hey, Mr. Aguirre, ¿cómo estás? You know, talking to them and whatnot, you know. So I was part of the community, so it was like I was helping them, you know. That's what I was doing, you know.
That's awesome, man. Wow. 5 years old, and then like what? 19 minus 5 years later.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
14 years, man.
14, yeah, I'm bad at math. I hate math. Fuck, man. But that's crazy, man. I mean, like, you know, that's what Asian American Studies taught me too, is like about the community. You know, I'm not making too much of like I graduated, but I definitely am still in touch with the community and definitely giving back to how I can. I mean, one of them is a podcast, you know, giving people an outlet or like a platform to speak like their story, validate it. You know, that's so cool that I had no idea any of this about you. Like, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, and like you said, like right now, how you're giving back, you know, doing podcasts and doing that, and even with your music career, you know, trying to do things like that. And for me, my other outlet was doing the pins.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
doing PINetration.
We can get into that because I know, maybe, I don't know, I never really like knew too much about pins, but in the past 3 to 4 years, more recently, like the past 2 years, it became mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, I see them. I mean, I think once you see them at Urban Outfitters, you know, like it's mainstream.
Yeah, definitely.
You see the bigger pins. I see them on Instagram. People would have them on their hats, some on the T-shirts or backpacks. What made you get into the whole pin making business?
So, PINetration, the birth of PINetration was, I was in a band, so I've always been into button pins and
Right.
stuff like that. So I would always rock them on my jackets, you know, my jean jacket.
Oh,
and
right.
stuff
So then,
that.
like the punk kids, have
Yeah, yeah.
all the pins.
So I would always have stuff like that on my thing.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies, Pellet, he would always rock, you know, lapel pins, you know. So he would, I would always see some like dope ones. He would like, that's a fresh ass LA pin. Where'd you get it? And he's like, oh, this cat sells it online. You know, kind of like, you know. So I was like, oh, that's dope. You know, it's different. It's from, you know, I'm used to the button ones. The only time I really saw, you know, like the soft enamel pins was like the Disney ones and stuff
Right.
like that, you know. So, you know, he would, every time he would rock something dope, you know, I was like, damn, those are dope, bro. And then he came with a Rage one, and I was like, what? Like, where'd you get that one? He's like, this cat. So I bought one, and then I remember I was like, you know what? I want to get one of Cantinflas, who is a Mexican comedian actor, iconic actor. You know, I love comedy. You know, I did comedy improv for a while. You know, I graduated from UCB, so you know, I was in an improv group for a while. So I would go and we would do improv things. So I've always loved like that comedy aspect of things. So I wanted to get one of him. Couldn't find one anywhere, man. Nowhere to be found. So I said, you know what? Let me look for, you know, La India Maria, who was another comedian actress. So couldn't find one, and then my boy was like, fuck, man, why don't you just do one yourself? You know,
Right.
like let's design one and see what it is. You know, so I was like, you know what? That sounds cool. Started, you know, researching, doing a few months of researching, thinking about it, and then I thought to myself, all right, cool, you know, but if I come out with these, no one's gonna know who they are. Or there isn't a market for it because I can find it anyways. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna do one of my favorite bands first. So I did the Gas Mask for At the Drive-In, you know, which is one of my favorite bands. And I said, like, this is gonna sell. You know, everyone likes At the Drive-In. You know, if you're into that scene, you're gonna really like it. I still have those pins to this day, bro. I still have them. That was like the worst selling pin I've ever made.
Wow.
You know, which is crazy. You know, but I started it, no traction. You know, and I was trying to promote it, but it's all marketing when it comes up to doing things like that. You got to get your product out there, and you know, on Instagram, it's like, and my buddy was helping me. He's like, don't worry, I'll take care of the Instagram part of it. And it's like, we couldn't get past like 78 followers, like, and it was crazy.
What year was this?
It's about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago.
Was this 2015?
Yeah, it was close to like 2016, so it was probably like 2016, the beginning, like January. So we started, so it was just hard, you know, it's like, who's gonna buy this? No one's seen it. So, and then I made the next one, and I made a Rage Against the Machine one, you know, I made one of Zach, and nothing. So, and then I was like, my buddy was kind of more like, damn, we're just wasting money, you know, like, you know, and we started going little by little, and then I started, so I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna do the ones that I wanted to do. So I did the Cantinflas one, and then I did, you know, after that one, I did Mad Max from Where the Wild Things Are, and then I did a robot one, since I love robots, and then after that, I did like my India Maria one, and then I came out with, you know, a Vicente Fernandez one, and then I did the fruit cart and stuff like that. So when I did those, I was more like, I thought to myself, it's like, no one has a market for this. Whether, like, I tried the other ones to see if I was gonna get traction, to get people to buy them so I can make the other ones. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna invest in these, the ones that I made prior. It's like, it is what it is, you know. I'm gonna focus on this. At least if I go down in flames, I go down doing something that I wanted to do.
Right.
And I thought to myself, this is how I'm gonna give back to my community. I'm gonna, not just my community, but my people, you know, the Latino community was, I'm gonna make pins, you know, Latino inspired pins, you know, like nostalgic stuff, you know, things that we grew up with, things that like, you see it now and you just laugh like, damn, my mom used to do that to me, or my grandma used to use that shit, you know, or, so I said, this is my niche right here. This is where I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna go full force on it, you know? So we started doing some. I did a Selena pin and stuff like that, and I was getting like 2 sales a week, you know? And it was just something I was doing on the side, you know? I still have a 9 to 5, you know? So this is what I was doing. So when I would get home, I literally had like a list of 30 pins I wanted to make. It's like, if one of these gets traction, and once I get enough, I was just crossing out every pin, like, okay, I have enough to do this one, I crossed out, that's the next pin I make, that's the next pin I make, you know, going down the line. So we had, one day I remember getting out of work, and I'm walking in my car and I check my phone, and I have like 100 emails.
Damn.
And it was like, I'm like, what the fuck? So, and then I check, and then someone had posted one of my pins, and then people were retweeting it. So people were buying that pin, and I'm like, what's going on? So then I get on Etsy, because that's one of the stores that I sell at, and then it says like, oh, your pin has been featured on whatever, somebody featured your pin. So then I check, and then, so I'm looking like, who the fuck, posted it? And then this actress, comedian actress, Cristel Alonso, she purchased one of our pins, the Selena pin, and then she reposted it saying like, that she had just purchased this, and she has thousands of followers, whatnot. And she kind of started PINetration, man.
Nice.
Like she was after her, like PINetration, the rest is history with that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Once I hit that, I got to make all 30 of my pins.
That's awesome.
Yeah, instead of waiting every 2 months to make one, I did all of them after that, and to this day, man, we send her pins, every pin design that I make or anything like that, we send it to her, man.
That's awesome.
I mean, if it wasn't for her, she was a big help for us. She was a big help for us, and then after that, we started working with a lot of other people, and
That's dope.
yeah, and people just started knowing who we are, man. PINetration.
That's cool. Awesome, man. So, one more thing I gotta ask. I remember like when I ran into you a few years ago, you were really about the LA Marathon. Can you talk to us how you got into that and your training and if you still do it?
Yeah, so I ran my first marathon in 2010. 2010, and I remember me and one of my best friends, Juan. We played hockey, so that was like our entertainment, or our exercise or whatever. We're playing 2 nights a week or whatnot. But I remember it was on a Thanksgiving in 2009. We went to a buddy's house, and then they were like, "Oh, what's up?" We were talking about like, "Bro, we're training for the marathon, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna do the LA Marathon, the one in March." And this was in November. And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it." He's like, "We've been running every day. We're doing 6 miles." And then I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's like this guy who drinks all day does this. It's just like, and all of a sudden he's inspired to do a marathon. And I was like, this motherfucker can do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
So then my boy said the same thing. He's like, "Did you hear these fools are doing the marathon?" I was like, "Dude, I'm tripping right now." He's like, so we made a pact. We said, "You know what? Starting tomorrow, I'm gonna wake your ass up at 5 in the morning. We're gonna start running. We're gonna start doing that." So he's like, "We're gonna make a pact that we're gonna train for 6 months. After 6 months, we'll see what we go." But on the 6-month mark was gonna be April or May or something like that. The marathon was in March. So the next day, called me. I remember that day we went to In-N-Out, had my last meal, and the next day, woke up, went for a run, barely could run a mile, little by little, man. And then we started training. We would go to the gym, and we were going to the gym. It was clockwork for us, man.
You went to the gym and
ran, yeah.
What did you do in the gym?
So in the gym, we wanted to work out. So we wanted just to get in shape, just in that sense. We did a lot of leg work too, for the marathon, and just because when you're running in general, you're moving a whole bunch of parts of your body. So like when you're running, your back gets sore and your arms get sore from like, having them up at a certain position most of the time. So, we were just doing that type, workouts like that, it's more cardio, but we were still like kind of lifting. My buddy, it was funny because my buddy wanted to get more swole in that sense. So he made a pact. He's like, because he knows that I hate the gym. So he's like, "If you go to the gym with me, I'll go running with you," because he hated running. So that was a pact we made. So we'd wake up at 4, get to the gym at 5, do our workout for about an hour and a half, and then from there we would go run. And then we do that every day.
Every day?
Every day, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, we wouldn't go to the gym, but we would run.
Long runs?
Yeah, we would do like a 7-mile run, and then on Sunday we would do a 12 to 16-mile run. So, and yeah, we did that. We started gradually, man. We started just little by little, and then I ran my first marathon in 2010, the LA Marathon. I finished it in 4 hours and 4 minutes.
What's average? 5?
I don't know what average would be. I guess it
Four
just
is
depends.
4 sounds really good. I usually hear like 5 hours.
And that would probably be average. I think I usually base an average person, and this is just me, an average person running a mile, I think it's usually 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 to 11 minutes, that's an average mile. So if you multiply that by 27 or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but for me, like starting from, it's crazy to start, like we ran the first day and it was like a mile and I was like, I was hurting. I was hurting, and then just little by little, just gradually just building, you know, building that stamina and getting there. I lost like 35 pounds, 40 pounds. Yeah.
You're already pretty skinny though.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I was skinny, but
Now I mean, when I met you in 2007, you're pretty skinny though.
yeah, I was, and yeah, but I think I dropped to like 140 at that time, yeah, and I think I was like at 160.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. It just goes to show like consistency and like a positive mindset.
Yeah.
But are you vegan by chance? You showed all those like rage against videos of like animal cruelty.
I'm not vegan. I'm vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
Yeah.
Were you always vegetarian?
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
vegetarian for about 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's crazy because people are like, oh, did you do it for animal rights or did you do it because of health? I just need a change in my life, man. I figure that during that time where I did that about 5 years ago, I was in a rut. You know, I just kind of felt like I needed to change something in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a really strict diet at the moment. It's not that it's strict, I'm just a really picky eater. So, and most of my food was protein, you know, chicken, beef, whatnot. So that's usually what I eat every day. So I thought that would be a really good challenge for me. If I stopped that, how would my life change and what would I do?
And has it changed for the better?
Yeah, I think it has. Yeah, I think it has. And then after a while, you know, it does start like getting my mind running, and it's like the animals and stuff like that. I mean, like I'm a dog lover. Like I have 2 dogs, and they sleep with me in the bed. You know, so I mean, like I love animals. You know, but the biggest part was just the change in my life. You know, and to go full vegan. Hopefully one day, you know, I'm straining towards that end. It's so easy to do it now. Just we have so many options as opposed to doing it even from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So if you think about people that have been doing it for 20 years, it's like they were just literally eating salads and tofu, you know. And then when I started, there wasn't really that much alternative meats, you know, or meat alternatives. A lot of tofu and stuff like that. But you look at it now, man. They got everything now. I mean, it's very easy for somebody to eat, to become vegan.
And do you have any advice for like young adults who want to pursue a similar career, I guess, in teaching?
Just stick with it, man. I mean, yeah, just be consistent, man. If I have a lot of teacher friends, and we have these conversations all the time. Know that that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Don't, and I'm not saying that this is for everyone,
Yeah.
but for a lot of people, if you're gonna want to go into something, and I think especially teaching, you know, make sure that's something that you take a look at before, you know, visit classrooms and even become a TA or volunteer and work in that environment before you jump deep into it. Don't like do your whole career on it if never been in a classroom, because, you know, it definitely changes your aspect. I've known a lot of people that have gone into teaching that have never taught before, and then it's like 2 years after, it's like, this is not me, you know, and it's just, I guess it's beneficial for them, you know, so they don't waste time going to school all those years and then doing something that they don't like.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, you have such a positive impact on the future. I mean, take an example for you. You had someone in your kindergarten class when they were 5, 14 years later, they remember you.
Yeah.
That's something, man.
Yeah, gotta be passionate about it, man. I love it, you know. I felt like I was really animated in class, even reading books, man. I would like under the desk, crawling.
Really?
Dude, I
just know you as a chill person. Like,
yeah,
what's up, man?
and just I was very loud, very animated, you know. And I mean, and my kids, kindergarten kids, by the time they leave, you know, they're King fans, you know, they love art, you know, they love robots, you know, it's like something that I bring to them. They love bulldogs, you know, I have bulldogs, so I'm always showing them pictures of my dogs and stuff like that.
What's your fascination with robots? Last question. Because I know I've seen you with stickers, you like post them everywhere.
Yeah, so the robot thing, so I had a friend, and rest in peace, Linda. I met her in San Francisco when I went there. She was a really close friend of mine. We kind of dated for a bit, and then we stayed friends after. But she loved robots. Her thing was robots. She would always school me on robots. The fascination of what she had for them, you know. She had a robot bell. Everything she always rocked robots. You know, it was her thing. So, you know, it got me like interested in the robot scene when she was into it. You know, and we're talking 2007, 2008. You know, when she was really into that. And then she passed away a few years back. Crazy freak accident. She was snowboarding, ran into a tree. She had a helmet, broke her helmet, died internal bleeding. Crazy, it was like a shock. So, you know, I just want to keep that legacy for her, you know, like keep the robot theme for her, you know. And it's crazy because people look at my logo for PINetration, it's actually a Mayan robot. So if you look at it, a lot of people are like, oh, is that a camera lens or, you know, shutter? And it's not. It's a Mayan robot, you know. So I brought the robot in.
I see.
Yeah. So I brought the robot in for her.
Wow. These are nice.
You know, and then I put the Mayan spin on it because, you know, I'm Latino and that's where we come from, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's an asset. You know, it's a Mayan robot where I brought that, and since then, you know, a lot of things, you know, involving robots, you know, it's in her honor, you know, trying to keep her spirit alive, you know. So that's where the logo comes from, you know. I also got the same tattoo on my arm as her, you know, when she passed away, you know, just to kind of, you know, honoring her. And yeah, man, that's kind of where the fascination of robots came from, you know.
Cool.
I love them since, man.
Nice. All right, man. Where can we find your PINetration on social media and websites?
So PINetration, you can find it on. You can find it on Etsy. So we have an Etsy. So it's I think PINetration 818. I also have a website, PINetration818.com. On Instagram, PINetration. Facebook, PINetration. You can find all that jazz on there. But my main store is Etsy. So if you guys want to check out my stuff, you'd go to Etsy. I have all my pins.
So many pins. These are nice. These are fire, bro. Shit.
So I have all my pins on there. So definitely go check it out. You know.
Nice. Yeah.
It's all cool stuff.
Hey, these are nice. All right, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Likewise.
Thank you for letting me come out.
No problem, man.